Day 93, read the Bible in a year. Judges 10, 11, and 12. Judges 10. After Abimelech died, Tola son of Puah, son of Dodo, was the next person to rescue Israel. He was from the tribe of Issachar, but lived in the town of Shamir in the hill country of Ephraim. He judged Israel for 23 years. When he died, he was buried in Shamir. After Tola died, Jair from Gilead judged Israel for 22 years. His 30 sons rode around on 30 donkeys, and they owned 30 towns in the land of Gilead, which are still called the towns of Jair. When Jair died, he was buried in Kaman. Again the Israelites did evil in the Lord's sight. They served the images of Baal and Ashtoreth and the gods of Aram, Sidon, Moab, Ammon, and Philistia. They abandoned the Lord and no longer served him at all. So the Lord burned with anger against Israel, and he turned them over to the Philistines and the Ammonites, who began to oppress them that year. For 18 years they oppressed all the Israelites east of the Jordan River, in the land of the Amorites, that is, in Gilead. The Ammonites also crossed to the west side of the Jordan and attacked Judah, Benjamin, and Ephraim. The Israelites were in great distress. Finally, they cried out to the Lord for help, saying, "We have sinned against you, because we have abandoned you as our God and have served the images of Baal." The Lord replied, "Did I not rescue you from the Egyptians, the Amorites, the Ammonites, the Philistines, the Sidonians, the Amalekites, and the Moabites? When they oppressed you, you cried out to me for help, and I rescued you. Yet you have abandoned me and served other gods, so I will not rescue you anymore. Go and cry out to the gods you have chosen. Let them rescue you in your hour of distress." But the Israelites pleaded with the Lord and said, "We have sinned. Punish us as you see fit. Only rescue us today from our enemies." Then the Israelites put aside their foreign gods and served the Lord, and he was grieved by their misery. At that time the armies of Ammon had gathered for war and were camped in Gilead, and the people of Israel assembled and camped at Mizpah. The leaders of Gilead said to each other, "Whoever attacks the Ammonites first will become ruler over all the people of Gilead."
Judges chapter 11. Now Jephthah, the Gileadite, was a mighty man of valor. He was the son of a prostitute. Gilead became the father of Jephthah. Gilead's wife bore him sons. When his wife's sons grew up, they drove Jephthah out and said to him, "You will not inherit in our father's house, for you are the son of another woman." Then Jephthah fled from his brothers and lived in the land of Tob. Outlaws joined up with Jephthah, and they went out with him. After a while, the children of Ammon made war against Israel. When the children of Ammon made war against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to Jephthah out of the land of Tob. They said to Jephthah, "Come and be our chief, that we may fight with the children of Ammon." Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, "Didn't you hate me and drive me out of my father's house? Why have you come to me now while you are in distress?" The elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, "Therefore we have turned again to you now, that you may go with us and fight with the children of Ammon. You will be our head over all the inhabitants of Gilead." Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, "If you bring me home again to fight with the children of Ammon, and the Lord delivers them before me, will I be your head?" The elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, "The Lord will be witness between us. Surely we will do what you say." Then Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him the head and chief over them. Jephthah spoke all his words before the Lord in Mizpah. Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the children of Ammon, saying, "What do you have to do with me, that you have come to me to fight against my land?" The king of the children of Ammon answered the messengers of Jephthah, "Because Israel took away my land when he came out of Egypt, from the Arnon even to the Jabbok, and to the Jordan. Now therefore restore that territory again peaceably." Jephthah sent messengers again to the king of the children of Ammon. And he said to him, Jephthah says, Israel didn't take away the land of Moab, nor the land of the children of Ammon. But when they came up from Egypt, and Israel went through the wilderness to the Red Sea, and came to Kadesh, then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, Please let me pass through your land. But the king of Edom didn't listen. In the same way, he sent to the king of Moab, but he refused. So Israel stayed in Kadesh. Then they went through the wilderness and went around the land of Edom and the land of Moab, and came by the east side of the land of Moab, and they encamped on the other side of the Arnon. But they didn't come within the border of Moab, for the Arnon was the border of Moab. Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, the king of Heshbon, and Israel said to him, Please let us pass through your land to my place. But Sihon didn't trust Israel to pass through his border. But Sihon gathered all his people together and encamped in Jahaz and fought against Israel. The Lord, the God of Israel, delivered Sihon and all his people into the hand of Israel, and they struck them. So Israel possessed all the land of the Amorites, the inhabitants of their country. They possessed all the border of the Amorites, from the Arnon even to Jabbok, and from the wilderness even to the Jordan. So now the Lord, the God of Israel, has dispossessed the Amorites from before his people Israel. And should you possess them? Won't you possess that which Shemosh your God gives you to possess? So whoever the Lord our God has dispossessed from before us, them will we possess. Now, are you anything better than Balak the son of Zippor, the king of Moab? Did he ever strive against Israel, or did he ever fight against them? Israel lived in Heshbon and its towns, and in Aroer in its towns, and in all the cities that are along the side of the Arnon for 300 years. Why didn't you recover them within that time? Therefore, I have not sinned against you, but you do me wrong to war against me. May the Lord, the judge, be judged today between the children of Israel and the children of Ammon. However, the king of the children of Ammon didn't listen to the words of Jephthah, which he sent him. Then the Lord's Spirit came on Jephthah, and he passed over Gilead and Manasseh, and passed over Mizpah of Gilead. And from Mizpah of Gilead he passed over to the children of Ammon. Jephthah vowed a vow to the Lord and said, If you will indeed deliver the children of Ammon into my hand, then it shall be that whatever comes out of the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, it shall be the Lord's, and I will offer it up for a burnt offering. So Jephthah passed over to the children of Ammon to fight against them, and the Lord delivered them into his hand. He struck them from Aroer until you come to Minnith, even 20 cities, and to Abler Chirium, and with a great slaughter, a very great slaughter. So the children of Ammon were subdued before the children of Israel. Jephthah came to Mizpah to his house, and behold, his daughter came out to meet him, with tambourines and with dances. She was his only child. Beside her, he had neither son nor daughter. When he saw her, he tore his clothes and said, Alas, my daughter, you have brought me very low, and you are one of those who trouble me. For I have opened my mouth to the Lord, and I can't go back. She said to him, My father, you have opened your mouth to the Lord. Do to me according to which has proceeded out of your mouth, because the Lord has taken vengeance for you on your enemies, even on the children of Ammon. Then she said to her father, Let this thing be done for me. Leave me alone 2 months, that I may depart and go down on the mountains, bewail my virginity, I and my companions. He said, Go. He sent her away for 2 months, and she departed, she and her companions, and mourned her virginity on the mountains. At the end of 2 months, she returned to her father, who did with her according to his vow, which he had vowed. She was a virgin. It became a custom in Israel that the daughters of Israel went yearly to celebrate the daughter of Jephthah, the Gileadite, 4 days in a year.
Judges 12. The men of Ephraim were gathered together and passed northward, and they said to Jephthah, "Why did you pass over to fight against the children of Ammon, and didn't call us to go with you? We will burn your house around you with fire." Jephthah said to them, "I and my people were at great strife with the children of Ammon, and when I called you, you didn't save me out of their hand. When I saw that you didn't save me, I put my life in my hand and passed over against the children of Ammon, and the Lord delivered them into my hand. Why then have you come up to me today to fight against me?" Then Jephthah gathered together all the men of Gilead and fought with Ephraim. The men of Gilead struck Ephraim because they said, "You are fugitives of Ephraim, you Gileadites, in the middle of Ephraim and in the middle of Manasseh." The Gileadites took the fords of the Jordan against the Ephraimites. Whenever a fugitive of Ephraim said, "Let me go over," the men of Gilead said to him, "Are you an Ephraimite?" If he said no, and then they said to him, "Now say, Shibboleth." And he said, Sibboleth, for he couldn't manage to pronounce it correctly. Then they seized him and killed him at the fords of the Jordan. At that time, 42,000 of Ephraim fell. Jephthah judged Israel 6 years. Then Jephthah the Gileadite died, and he was buried in the city of Gilead. After him, Ibzan of Bethlehem judged Israel. He had 30 sons. He sent his 30 daughters outside his clan, and he brought in 30 daughters from outside his clan for his sons. He judged Israel 7 years. Ibzan died, and he was buried at Bethlehem. After him, Elon the Zebulunite judged Israel, and he judged Israel 10 years. Elon the Zebulunite died and was buried in Ajalon in the land of Zebulun. After him, Abdon the son of Hillel the Pirathonite judged Israel. He had 40 sons and 30 sons who rode on 70 donkey colts. He judged Israel 8 years. Abdon the son of Hillel the Pirathonite died and was buried in Pirathon in the land of Ephraim in the hill country of the Amalekites.
Wow. I'm starting to see a pattern in this book. There's these judges that God chooses to lead Israel. They lead for a time and they save Israel out of circumstances, that are surrounding them. But as soon as that judge died, we see a downfall of the Israelites. And I think we can see it, or we can read it in two different ways. We can see how sinful man is. We need leaders, we need God. And when we forget God, we fall into a pit. Or we can see God's grace. He's continually gracious and continually saving them in spite of themselves and the decisions that they're making, pulling them out of really bad places.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. And when I'm looking at Jephthah, for example, he did all these amazing things. Well, first of all, he was rejected by the people because of his family background. They said, "Hey, your mother is a prostitute, so you're not going to lead us."
Yeah.
So they kicked him out because of where he came from. And I can see how so many people can relate to that today, how people are judged by their socioeconomic position,
Sure.
or their family background, or maybe relatives who have done some bad things. And it puts, it can make people feel bad or look bad. This is how society judges people. But it's not how God judges people. And finally, when they were in need, they said, "Hey, you are a great leader. You're a great warrior. We actually need you." And he's like, "Hey, I thought I wasn't good enough for you." And he came anyway. And it's interesting. They said they needed him, and he said that he needed the Lord. So he was very spiritual. He said, if the Lord does this, we know that we're going to take this land. Like, he was really trying to rely on God, more than the others who weren't even mentioning the Lord.
Yeah, it's and then we see this guy who seems to have things on straight when it comes to God, vow to give up whatever comes out of his house first. And his daughter comes to greet him. I think he's missing a point here, missing some character traits of God. He sees God as something that's a little bit out there. I think he's been corrupted a little bit by the society around him.
Absolutely. They did a lot of, when they worshipped Baal, there was a lot of child sacrifice that they did to Baal. And he had something off wrong, for sure. I mean, some people could look at this and see it in the Bible and think, oh, did God approve of this? Nowhere does it say that God approved of this. Nowhere did it say that, God was allowing this. He made this rash vow, and then he carried it through with it. He did something that was heinous.
Yeah.
It says, God says, don't kill others. Don't kill your own children. I mean, that's one of the, in the commandments, I believe. It says don't sacrifice your own children. And so here he sacrificed his child. And it's a heinous thing. It's a horrible thing that he did.
I think it really goes to show the fact that when we fall away from God, when we walk away from God, we walk far. We lose sight of what's really important. We can corrupt our minds, our thinking, to think God's thinking a certain way. But God is gracious. God is loving. God is always going to be there for us. Not what we think God is going to be, but God is God. We need to go back to the source.
Yeah, and even so, he had said earlier on, when we were reading the different parts of the Bible in the first 5 books, he talked about how he didn't want the Israelites to be around other nations because of the detestable things that they were doing, and one of those detestable things was child sacrifice. So we know that God wasn't okay with this, but what we see here is that he had some religion in him. He had some things where he wanted to do some things, for God, but there were some other things in his character, in his mind, in his thinking, and in his actions that were absolutely against what God would want and what God approves of. So there was corruption, there was a misunderstanding of who God is, and in fact, he, not just a misunderstanding, he literally went against what God would want him to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then also, I think we get a glimpse of how disunity creeps in. This nation of Israel, who fought to take over the promised land together as a unified nation under God, under Moses and Joshua, now there's infighting. One tribe is saying to another tribe, we're going to come and burn your house down because you didn't ask us to be a part of this. And how far we can fall when we're not focused on honoring and worshiping God in our lives.
Yeah, it's a good lesson for us to remember that, God has been gracious to us. He has been merciful to us, and how we need to remember that he is always going to help us in our time of need. He's going to discipline us. He's going to put us through different challenges, just like he did with the Israelites, to wake them up. Otherwise, we would have there'd be nothing today for us if he didn't go through that with them at different times. But also to remind us that we need to be merciful. We need to show them same mercy to each other when we want to take revenge, when we want to say, hey, you didn't help me, therefore I'm not going to help you. In fact, I'm going to get back at you. He teaches us that that isn't the way to go, that he wants us to be unified and to work together and to show the same grace to other people, even if they've wronged us, because how many times have we wronged God?
Yeah, so true, so true. Keep our focus. Have a great day.